It is now time to start on our way home. We chose not to take the beaten path, that is, the freeways and the very improved highways. We chose to take the back roads, and we're going through the White Mountains right now, and what a place. The roads are narrow and barely room enough for 2 cars to pass on, but it's very, very scenic, and anyone can drive the freeways and the well-traveled highways, but this is something very special. We're hoping to get through these mountains before it snows. It's getting the time of year. Probably these roads would be impassable with snow and ice on it. So it looks like we're hitting it about right. And we just continue winding up through some pinyon pine trees and junipers. We're just below where the bristlecone pine are, and that's the oldest tree that we have is the bristlecone. And where on earth could you ever find more pretty scenery than there is through here? You can even look over across right behind us and see the mighty Sierra Mountains.
I don't think this road could get any crookeder.
It's pretty crooked.
Okay, welcome to Nevada.
Since we took such a crooked road, it's getting towards evening by the time we get through the mountains, and we stop at Fish Lake Valley Hot Well to try a little bit of the hot springs and to camp for the night. This hot springs is an excellent spring with a very good flow, probably over 100 gallons per minute coming out of the ground, and it runs through a hot pool that you can climb down in and use. The problem with it is someone's vandalized the ladder. All the rungs were off from it, so it's a little difficult to get up and out of, but we still did it. There's the hot well runs out into some settling ponds where it cools a little bit before it goes into irrigation, and the coots sure love this warm water. I see there are even some koi fish in there. The water is less than 100 degrees in these ponds since they're quite large, and it cools quite rapidly, but the coot love it like that, and there's plenty for them to eat, both mosses on the bottom in the pools and grasses growing around the edge. And there's even a batch of willows growing there, habitat for a lot of wildlife, and particularly the birds. There is more than one pond here, and in the second pond we see some tall reeds and sedges growing around the outside of it, and then even some willows on one side of it. So this is an excellent habitat for the birds. In the desert where we were the previous day, there was a few red-winged blackbirds that are actually starving to death. Their main food is seeds, but they're omnivorous, so they can eat bugs, insects of all kinds, and very small lizards or animals. This is in the edge of the Fish Lake Valley, So there is scads of alfalfa grown here, and so the birds can fly out there and eat the seeds. Well, it's time to try out the hot springs. I just wish that the vandals hadn't vandalized the ladder.
This is a replica of a wikiak, and it's built quite well. They haven't thatched it yet nor finished with the little branches on it, but it's just like the real deal was. This is what the Native Americans lived in, and they basically only were in it to sleep at night. Most all the activity took place outside it, and they would thatch it with long swamp grass, and it looks like it had been pretty cozy. Marge is even in the wikiak. As soon as they get around to finishing it with
It's real pretty.
some grass or something to thatch it with, it'll be real cozy.
Look at that.
The sticks are the willows, and I don't know where they got them from.
The wikiak is standing here overlooking the hot springs and the giant Fish Lake Valley, but Marge has got other plans. She wants to look and see if she can find some of the little Apache tears. They're little droplets of obsidian that have been cast out of a volcano up into the air, and they whirl and cool and make little balls. They call them obsidian. They call them Apache tears. There have been people camping here, and pathetic mess they left. It's just a whole slug of broken beer bottles in a pile, and then we move on, and the desert is rather clean, and we find more and more of the little Apache tears. They can be tumbled, and they're quite good grade obsidian, and you can drill them and make little beads out of them or something like that. These Apache tears are quite abundant, and you can find them scattered over a broad area here. And also there is some low-grade petrified wood here, if you can find it. I understand there's a place on around where you can find more, but we haven't. By the time we get back to the hot springs and the swamp area, we see hordes of blackbirds moving in here to nest for the night. They've been out in the farm fields or someplace feeding all day. And when they come back here, they come back with a vengeance. It takes the blackbirds a little while to find that perfect reed to roost on for the night, and that provides them a little bit of protection from the predators such as the coyotes and bobcats and things that like a nice fat blackbird for dinner. It takes them considerable time to find that perfect reed to hang on to spend the night, but eventually they will, and they get started early of a morning and head out to some of the farmland to catch bugs and eat a variety of different seeds. Thousands of blackbirds show up here to do the roosting on these reeds, and they just keep flying back and forth trying to find that perfect reed to roost on during the night. And I don't know whether they care who's roosting next to them or not. I'm not sure how they feel about that. But they finally all get to roost as the sun is being tucked down behind the White Mountains. The coot are out there looking for a sheltered resting place on land to spend the night, and then in the morning they'll be out here again, working on the water, trying to find little bits and pieces of things they like to eat. Looks like we've pretty well got the birds all roosting tonight, and so now we'll go find a place where we'll sleep tonight in our little tent. The next morning, as soon as it's daylight, we have our little tent and sleeping bags packed up, and it was a little chilly sleeping that night. Then the next morning when we get up and get going, we see the White Mountains standing pretty and tall with a new coat of snow on. The White Mountains have a little skirt of fog around them, which adds to their beauty and charm as we head north toward home. Even the desert hills have a little dusting of snow on their peaks as we move northeast toward home. The coyote pup scampers to get across the road to safety. He hasn't got himself put away yet from a nighttime hunting. Then we come to a herd of desert bighorn sheep. Along Walker Lake, where they come down to water. Walker Lake is a very pretty desert lake and used to have really big Lahontan cutthroat in it. Then we watch the bighorn sheep as they move up to get themselves put away for the bighorn sheep move down and cross the road all the time to water in Walker Lake, so you need to be really careful driving along there. After the bighorn sheep, we follow along Walker Lake for a considerable distance. It's a really nice big lake, and we talked to some Piute on the Piute reservation there, and they said they used to catch giant Lahontan cutthroat out in the lake. And I'm not sure whether there's still any fishing there or not. Then, after Walker Lake, we move along some snow-covered hills. We then move up through McDermott, Nevada, where we see a gecko. I didn't realize their range was that far north, but it sure is one, and he's similar to the one we saw down in the Mojave Desert that had no tail. He thinks he's a pretty important bird, though. After McDermott, Nevada, we're in Oregon, and we move right on up Highway 95. This highway is a 75-mile-an-hour speed limit on it, but we probably won't be going that fast. It does have a lot of truck traffic and other traffic. It's one of the main routes to Boise, Idaho. But we move right on up under a cover of clouds. Then we realize we're just about to where we're going to spend the night when we can look out and see the beautiful Steens Mountain shining in the background under a coat of clouds. It was really nice going down to the Mojave Desert and enjoying that great sunshine and the beautiful scenery, but it sure feels good to get back in familiar territory where we sort of call home. That is, our daughter has bought 160 acre out here in the desert which has nothing on it, so we have an old trailer house that we've moved there just for camping once in a while. We see there's been a good rainstorm up here, and there's some more little squalls hanging on the horizon as the sun starts to sink down behind the Steens Mountain. We travel down a good road for a while, then we get on the little back road to her property and find that it's flooded. But we'll get through and be able to spend the night out here in peace and quiet. And that we did. And that night, during the night, we heard the coyotes howl several times. And it was a real nice quiet night since we have no nearby neighbors. Just the natural sounds of nature out here.
We swung by our daughter's property, and I'm out looking at the badger hole, and for some reason it's been covered over real recently. Some animal or something has covered it over. I don't know what the reason for that would be. I don't remember ever seeing that before, but there's our little camp trailer that we spent the night in, and then the Steens Mountains, there's a few little squalls kicking around this morning, and it rained a little bit last night, so we have to go home and take care of things, so we're getting ready to go right now. And our windsock is just barely going this morning.
As we travel through Bend, we see the Three Sisters, and it looks like the wind is blowing like crazy up there. It's got a fog almost covering them, but we can still see the tops of the peaks sticking out of the fog bank.